Okay, good morning, everyone. I probably said good morning to most of you, except for those who wandered in late. And it's so interesting because sitting up here, you get used to the idea that people come in late. So thank you so much for the beautiful flowers, Morgan. They're great. And you know, we talk about this idea of wholeness and the idea of spirit and everything. So before you came, Morgan, Reverend Maureen and I, we had about 5 different colors of tablecloth. So we were like, oh, should we use red? Should we use orange? And of course, we picked the perfect one, because when we get ourselves in a mindset of being in the flow, of allowing that kind of synchronicity to unfold, things just seem to happen by a happy coincidence, right? So coincidentally, we picked the right tablecloth for your arrangement, which is beautiful. And we think about that a lot. A lot of us experience these happy or lucky coincidences, and we don't pay attention to the fact that they tend to happen when we're feeling good. They tend to happen when we're kind of upbeat in our lives, when we're looking at life in a positive way. These things happen more and more to us. So earlier, Reverend Marguerite asked, does anyone have any demonstrations that they want to share? And I was sitting there, I was like, I happen to know that there are a few people in this room who might have experienced what we call demonstration. So a demonstration, as we see it, is the idea that when a person creates a mental image of what it would be that they would like to experience in their life, and they open their hearts enough to be receptive to that experience or that thing unfolding, then a demonstration would occur when, indeed, it does unfold. Right? So first I'm going to ask again, is there anyone who would like to share a demonstration? Johnny, would you like to, do you mind coming up so you can use the microphone?
Hello. For some of you that know, my husband just went through open heart surgery a few weeks ago. And the thing that I found that was somewhat incredible was that when we were going in for his surgery, we were under the assumption that this was going to be something somewhat simple. We had started looking at having some work done based on an angiogram that was done in December, and they had said, you know, we'll probably put a stent in, and that will be all that will be needed. And what we found was that they said, no, open heart surgery is what you're really going to need. And they really didn't express any severity to that, just that it was going to be something that we do all the time, and it would be something that he would just need to spend some time recovering from. And so 30 days later, he goes in for surgery. I had meditated and said, let's cover him in white light and protect him as he goes in for surgery. And would the universe please hold his heart in its hand to take care of him? And I received a call 4 hours after surgery, and the surgeon said, wow, if it hadn't happened today, in the next day or two, he would have had a severe heart attack and most likely died. And I had had asked him, I said, wow, well, that's pretty incredible. And he said, yes, it is. He said, I don't know how he's been living this long. Because whenever I held his heart in my hand, it exploded. It had fallen apart. And he said that his artery basically was dead tissue, and that he has no earthly idea how in the world he was continuing to pump blood. And for me, that was really hard to hear. And he said that in the next day or two, that it's going to be touch and go. We don't know how he'll do. And I thought about it and meditated and thought, how do I want to approach this? So I decided what I was going to do was just going to put out into the universe the truth that the surgeon had shared with me. And so I shared it with all of you, what had happened, and I didn't spare any detail. I just wanted to go ahead and share that. And in came all of the treatments and all of the great thoughts and prayers. And in that moment, I realized that we are the collective white light that had been holding him. And through all of the well wishes and the thoughts and the caring that came from all of the people that I had reached out to, I knew that there was so much energy that was going to be coming and caring for him. And even when I went to visit him in the ICU, 5 hours after surgery, and walked into the ICU, they said, oh, we're so glad you're here. Daryl had reached his hand out to me, and I grabbed it. And then the machine started to go off, and they said, would you please step outside? And I said, yes. They said, we have to put a defibrillator on him because he's having a heart attack. And so they did. And then I came back in after they got him settled down, and he reached his hand out to me again, and I held it for hours after that. And I knew at that moment that I wasn't afraid, I wasn't scared, I wasn't at all concerned, even by the heart attack that was taking place, because I knew everything was going to be fine. Everything was going to be okay. And that is because I knew what was coming, and I could feel the energy and the love that was coming towards him. And I knew that the universe and all of our treatments were going to continue to hold on to his heart. We went to go see the surgeon, and he was so impressed at his progress. We went to see the cardiologist this last week, and he said that I've never seen someone who had such traumatic event heal so quickly. And I know that it's because of you and all the others who set their thought and their truth and their belief in his health and his recovery. And he is here today with us because of that. And I'm so, so grateful.
Thank you for sharing that, Johnny and Daryl. And boy, are we all so glad that you're here with us today, Daryl. Although, of course, we always expected you to be right there. So, does anyone else feel like sharing a demonstration?
Well,
Can you come up here? Do you mind coming up here?
no, we don't mind.
Bring Teddy. Teddy's kind of a demonstration.
I am so grateful. And when I was signing the card, I was thinking, this is for both of us. I had a doctor, a specialist in San Diego that said I had AFib and said I had to go to the emergency immediately. So I drove back to Escondido, went to the emergency. They said, yes, indeed, you have AFib. You have got to get to a cardiologist ASAP. and they recommended one. I have the appointment with him, and he feels my pulse, and he says, oh, absolutely, definitely. He said, but we're going to do an EKG. The EKG showed, no, I was not in AFib. And so I was pretty confused. I have 3 doctors that say I am, and then in the test it says I'm not. He said, I want you to wear a heart monitor for 15 days, which I did. And every single morning when I awakened, I thought about the word heart. God gave us heart. What does that mean? Is it that thing that's pumping inside our chest? Oh, no, 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 no. No, it's love. It's love. And when there is enough love together, the heart flourishes. And I said that to myself, plus she knew. So when my 15 days were up and I mailed in my heart monitor and my cardiologist called me, I had an appointment. I went in and he said, your heart is perfect. I said, well, Doc, I knew that, but thanks for reminding me.
Thank you. Anyone else feel moved to share? I mean, those are 2 amazing demonstrations, and I appreciate that. Jim would did you want to start, Jim?
I promise this one has nothing to do with medical. All right, let's see. Mine was, you all know I'm an author, and maybe you all don't know, I do workshops on gratitude. And this whole process started in maybe 2015 when I wrote the book, which is actually the backstory of what happens during the workshop. And as my confidence was growing, I knew that in order to do workshops, I really needed a larger audience to do this. And I had been dragging my feet for the last couple of years trying to decide if I had enough confidence to do a big one. So did my prayer, and I called Reverend Christian Sorensen at Seaside. And Seaside Church is what, 5,000 people? 3,000 people. It's a very big church. And Christian sent me to his director of education, Tara Short. And Tara said, yes, I'd be interested in you coming and doing the workshop for us. However, I'd like to see what you have to do first. Please invite me to your next workshop. Well, as a new workshop presenter, I'm an unknown. So how do you get people to take a workshop? So I asked Reverend Kate, I said, how would you like to do a workshop at Carlsbad? And we talked, and she said, yes. And then now this is a plug. That's going to happen on April 6th. We're going to do a workshop. And the last thing is that she said she wanted a recording. She said, you have a recording of the workshop. And I realized that I really needed a recording because if I'm going to present this to other centers, they need to have an idea of what this is. So anyway, prayer works.
That's great, Jim, and I appreciate that example. I have 2 microphones going. There, is that better? Yeah, okay. We can do what we refer to as spiritual healing in all aspects of our life. It can be to help us find a new place to live. It can be to help us find a new job. There are many, many avenues in which we find that spiritual healing can benefit us. And so my talk title today is Spiritual Healing and Wholeness. We talk about spiritual healing as kind of an activity that takes place, although in reality, what is actually happening is that this thing that we experience as healing or as change is actually a revealing of the pre-existent truth of wholeness. So when we talk about this being a spiritual universe and about each one of us being spiritual beings having a human experience, it just implies, like in the reading that Johnny gave, it just implies the idea that there is something that is already perfect, whole, and complete about us, really about everything in the world, that pre-exists what's happening in this very moment. So what's happening in this day-to-day reality, we can refer to those as the conditions. You know, it's like the weather. Well, it's sunny today, it's rainy today. Same thing. Oh, my bank account is full. Oh, my bank account is empty. Oh, you know, I feel really healthy. I don't feel so healthy. I love my beautiful dishes. All my dishes are broken. I don't know, I'm just thinking goofy things. Whatever. You know what I mean? But these are things that are transitory. I'm getting along great with my family today, or I don't know what's wrong with my children. Right. I mean, these are the ups and downs of life. It gives us variety. It brings excitement. It keeps us on our toes. It provides this opportunity to learn, to move, to grow, to change. But sometimes life can become uncomfortable. Sometimes things go on, maybe in the background, and they get out of hand. And at that point, that's when we need to remind ourselves that our essence is that of wholeness. Now, here at the center, we teach the science of mind. We teach spiritual principles that we can use to kind of put us back on track. You know, if you think of a boat, I don't know, I guess most people know that a boat has a rudder or a way of steering. I guess a big cruise ship, you know, and they've got all these things. But if you think of a little boat and you think about it just going here and there, you know, like original boats. I always, being an Irish American, and it's soon going to be St. Patrick's Day, they had this kind of a boat that didn't make any sense at all. It's like a round circle that they would go around on. I think that they just let the current of the little stream move down the stream, but it didn't really have a way to steer it at all. And sometimes that's how our life is. We're just kind of like, whoosh, here we go. But we have the ability to stop, assess what it is that we care about, what it is that we want to experience, and then use what we refer to as the creative process. And the creative process is simply the idea that God is not a being. God is just the way it is. God is everything, infinite, and what we call omnipresent, which is everywhere, all the time, forever, in a way that is indivisible. So, actually, you know, I think of myself often as being part of God, but it's not part like a piece, right? I mean, I know I'm not all of God, and yet I'm not half God. I'm not, I mean, if there's 11 billion people on earth, I'm not 1/11 billionth, because God's indivisible. So a cell in our body is as fully perfect, whole, and complete as the entire universe. That's what we mean when we talk about wholeness. So, if you look at me, right? So I stand out here and you look at me. Do I look like a whole person? But now imagine if I were missing a hand, would you look at me and still see a whole person? I think everyone here would still admit that. If I told you I already have parts of myself removed through surgery, does it matter? No, I'm still a whole person. I'm still perfect, whole, and complete, because behind what you see in a day-to-day, physical way, there is spirit. In fact, because we know and see that spirit is all there is. There's spirit and nothing. There's nothing else besides spirit. So we don't believe in like a devil, a power that is in opposition to God. Because if that were true, then obviously our idea of God was too limited. We need to expand it. And so we expand it and expand it until we can recognize that the spirit is all there is, and everything. Then, what is everything made of? The substance of spirit. And how does spirit create substance? By becoming. So we often can refer to or think of spirit as just becoming, the beingness, becoming. When we talk about wholeness, it doesn't mean what some people might think of as physical perfection, like everything is lined up exactly so. It doesn't even mean that a person who I say and see as perfect, whole, and complete has a perfect ability to move around or doesn't have any what people might refer to as handicaps or impediments. That's not what we're talking about. What we're talking about, all you have to do is think of that scientist, Stephen Hawking, who was so brilliant, and we know he was brilliant, and yet he was almost, he couldn't walk. He needed 24-hour help. He couldn't even speak. And yet, he was a magnificent human being. So, what is it then that defines wholeness? In the introduction to the science of mind, the founder of our teaching, Ernest Holmes, declared, "There is that within every individual which partakes of the nature of universal wholeness, and insofar as it is in operation within us, is God." Right? So, God is spirit, that creative energy behind all. And we can also think of it as love, expressing through life. We believe that love is the basis of the universe, the basis of life. And we see that in just the beautiful abundance, the growing, the expansion, the true beauty that is all around us. It surrounds us. It's within us. It's indivisible. It's infinite. If you think of the way a circle is actually made up of an infinite number of points. Each time you think of a point, you can always divide by 2 and put another point, take those 2 points, put another point. You know, that's what we mean by infinite. And it's true, it really is true that the deeper you look into the nature of anything, whether it's the nature of a circle or the nature of a relationship, the more we do that, we keep discovering life in its infinite forms and expressions. So when you think about, what are we doing here? Why are we here? Why do we exist? You know, if Spirit created everything, what are we doing here today? What are we about? Well, we are the eyes and the ears. We are the discoverers. We are made of the substance of Spirit, and our experience is also the experience of Spirit. There is one thing. It is a unity, and it expresses in unlimited ways. You know, if you just think of sunlight streaming through, or the sun's that way, sunlight streaming through a prism, you know, a crystal prism. If you think about how when light hits a prism, it just scatters. And there are little points of light all over, all different colors. You can fill a whole room with these little colored lights. Well, every little light is nothing more than that one light expressing in multiple and unique ways. So that's what we mean when we say God is omnipresent, present everywhere in both visible and invisible realms, in its complete fullness. And this is the idea of wholeness. And this is why knowing this is the truth. It's possible for someone who is willing to accept this truth and declare this truth and believe this truth, to say with complete confidence, I know Daryl, Odie, anyone that you're thinking of is already perfect, whole, and complete, has always been perfect, whole, and complete, moves through this particular experience with grace and ease, obtaining the highest and best outcome. And this outcome, this thought of good, we actually, by thinking it, by believing it, it is the exact same process that you use when a gardener plants a seed into the actual soil. We are planting what you can think of as a thought seed into the mind of Spirit itself, which, like the soil, is always responding to us. And that is to the degree that we allow it, that we accept it. And that's where the spiritual healing issue can really come in, is, are we able to believe that we deserve good? Are we able to believe that with God all things are possible? And so we come together on Sundays and we talk about these ideas, and actually by being together and meeting each other and discussing with each other, it really, really provides support for each of us, you know. So hearing, I'm really grateful, Johnny, that you shared, because hearing that will help us all expand our ideas of what is possible. You know, when I first started training to be a practitioner and to be a licensed practitioner like Larry today is, and Reverend Maureen and I and actually Jim now is practitioner emeritus. We all went through training of taking classes for 1 or 2 years, and then taking advanced classes for 2 years, and then having an examination, having an oral panel of questions to see were we actually ready to work with people without bringing our own mindset into responding to what other people would like us to pray for or do spiritual mind treatment for. And then in addition, at least here in this center, every person who becomes a practitioner needs to provide what we call verified demonstrations. So before I say so-and-so is a licensed practitioner, they have to have done treatment work for someone else, and that person has to have experienced an actual response, an actual something happening, whether it's a healing that's physical, or whether it's something more material, or whether it's with a relationship. You know, if someone asks me to do a treatment to get along better with some relative, the treatment is done in my mind when I finish it. Because that's the only thing that I do. I just do a treatment, or Maureen just does a treatment, or Larry just does a treatment, where we know the truth about this situation, whatever it is. I don't send thought beams to the person. I don't interfere with them. We don't do that kind of healing. Well, I don't try to send healing vibes from my own will to them. It's not about that. What we do in spiritual mind treatment is know the essential truth about the situation. We don't have to do anything because we rely on spirit. And the person or the situation also has to be accepting. So I know in my own life, one of the things that I have struggled with the most is not knowing that something's possible, but knowing that I really am willing to accept it. Because I think, like most people, when you grow up, you just get these ideas. We call them ideas of limitation. You know, oh, maybe I'm not good enough. I mean, I'm standing up here today, and you don't know it, but I used to be, and still am to a degree, a very shy person. You know, so we all have to overcome. I have to become willing to step out a little bit from my podium, right? And so some things take a while to work with. And so it's important not to get in judgment, right? You can't judge, oh, I decided I don't want to be shy anymore, but, well, it's a new day, and guess what? I still am. No, we just return to the truth. And the truth is that there is good for us, that we ought to have it, that we can have it. And that is the whole essence of understanding our wholeness, using this understanding to experience spiritual healing. And when we understand that, we see in truth that this healing is a matter of uncovering, discovering, revealing that thing which has always been true, which is that we are one with spirit. That's the absolute truth. And it might, you know, there's times when it's hard to accept, but it really is true. It's okay to be happy. In fact, you know, there's little sayings like, I don't know, All you have to do is look at a young child and see what is our natural state. Our natural state is a state of happiness, contentment, and joy, and exploration. So that's the end of my talk, which, trust me, I didn't read. I could maybe read, oh yeah, I could read the end, yeah. Oh God, I read a quote from Holmes, right, this is good. If we already believe there is a power to heal, what next do we have to believe? We must believe that we are using it, and that it will do the healing because we are using it. We must connect the good that God is with the operation of our everyday affairs. Otherwise, it's energy not being used. It's still there. The good is still there. All of it. But only as much of it is able to flow to us as we believe in. We must train ourselves to believe in more and better possibilities. To believe that the good we desire is already done, it already exists, or is being done, is unfolding, is blossoming right now. In this moment, activity is in expansion. The law of action, as Maureen explained last week, we put the law into use when we open our hearts to experiencing good. So I'm going to ask everyone to really pay attention and look for signs that the good that you have been desiring is there for you, and don't hesitate to accept it. Just say, yes, yes, I accept. So, and so it is. Thank you.